Greetings, everyone. This is Rocco Spockers with the weekly comic book roundup. And we're going to get things started with Miles Morales Spider-Man number 13. So, where we left off, Miles' Uncle Aaron, the occasionally the costume criminal known as the Prowler, was hired to assassinate a mobster. However, Miles got involved, the hit was botched, and now a price is out on Prowler's head. But the person who got him the job has intimated that maybe, just maybe, if Prowler can make it to her base in Red Hook, maybe something, can be figured out. So, Miles and Uncle Aaron start making their way across from Washington Heights to Red Hook. First, they run into the Rhino. Miles tries to, diffuse things with, by talking to the Rhino, because him and the Rhino kind of develop, I wouldn't say go as far as to say a friendship, but there's at least a mutual respect between the two. After the early issues of the current Miles Morales series, and so Miles and Aaron managed to take down Prowler and the glider that a combat glider that Prowler's been utilizing picks them up. However, when they get to the Brooklyn Bridge, Miles' Spider Sense goes off and the glider is destroyed by the combined force might of Scorpia, White Rabbit, and Trapster. I honestly don't know this character, so yeah. So the trio dukes it out with Miles and Aaron, and first White Rabbit gets knocked out, and so the other two track down Miles and Prowler, but are then taken out promptly by Starling, who hits them both with some tranquilizer darts. Miles asks if she can give them a lift to Red Hook. However, Starling is on a different case. There's some missing girls, and, well, the trail's getting cold as they speak, so. They finally make it to Red Hook, however, and then have to face the Frost Pharaoh. During all this, however, it's also been revealed to Miles that not the person who arranged for Aaron to do the hit, to take the hit, but the one who put the hit out in the first place is none other than Miles' newest enemy, Ultimatum. So they arrive at Ceres' safe house, and Ceres actually manages to talk Ultimatum into not killing Prowler, explaining, no tool is right for every job. However, Prowler made it from Washington Heights to Brooklyn on foot with malfunctioning equipment, incapacitating the Rhino and several other assassins. So maybe he's a bit more valuable than Ultimatum wants to think. However, the whole one job for the outfit and then he's out, yeah, no. He works for Ultimatum now. Meanwhile, or afterwards, Miles and Aaron head to the Brooklyn University Hospital. As after Miles left, well, his mom was rushed to the hospital. Turns out she went into labor. And so Miles and Aaron get to meet Billy Mariana Morales, Miles' sister and Aaron's niece. And that is where the issue ends. Next up, we've got Symbiote Spider-Man Alien Reality #1. Alright, so, for those who weren't watching during that time, or whatever, earlier this year there was a 5-part Spider-Man miniseries entitled Symbiote Spider-Man, which featured an untold story of the black costume era for Spider-Man. Worked around with existing, and it was done in such a manner to work around existing stories. It helps that Peter David, who actually wrote a lot of those stories, was also writing the miniseries. And he's also writing this. So, we start off years ago in Siberia. An Avengers Quinjet is heading towards a crater. The pilot carrying a camcorder, and it is shocked to discover Doctor Strange out there. The pilot of the Quinjet is revealed to be none other than Black Widow. And Doctor Strange probably tells her, yeah, no. You and Shield, the Avengers, you're not qualified to be dealing with what this is. And what it is, if Strange is not mistaken, the Word of God. And, Natasha agrees that's over her pay grade. And so, fast forward a bit. We start off at JFK International Airport. Spidey and Kraven are duking it out. Kraven hits Spider-Man with a spiked ring, noting it's been he put some toxin on it. Not fatal, enough to render Spidey unconscious. And he's trying to decide, should he just smash Spider-Man quickly, or bring Spider-Man back to his lair? And he says, you know what? Nah, screw it. This is it. However, as Peter's unconscious, Symbiote takes control. However, when Peter regains consciousness, he's face to face with Kraven. No longer menacing, but in a safari outfit. And being told he's Spider-Man's partner. They stopped a hijacker together. But Peter must have hit his head or something. So he continues on, and turns out the Spider-Mobile is waiting for him outside the plane. Heads back into town, runs into Black Cat. Only, Black Cat is not Felicia Hardy, but rather Mary Jane Watson. I'm okay with that. I am totally okay with that. Because reasons. And they're lovers, so, But something's wrong, and, looks like the Spider-Wheel being towed. So he follows it, but makes a detour at the Sanctum Sanctorum. Though Doctor Strange is not the Sorcerer Supreme. Though Wong informs us that the Sorcerer Supreme is not home at present. However, the Sorcerer's Acolyte is available. Some small talk later is a joke about Cthulhu not being in a bottle, but yeah. Turns out the Acolyte is none other than the Hobgoblin. Wearing the Eye of Agamotto and the Cloak of Levitation. And now seemingly having a mastery of the mystical arts. He's behind all of this. And so Peter fights him, and he manages to get out of the sanctum. But only just. Hobgoblin, Sorcerer Supreme, wraps up Spidey with the Crimson Band of Cyttorak. However, before he can finish the job, Spider-Mobile with its autopilot comes along and hits Hobgoblin, who then shrinks it, causing it to be picked up by a couple of kids. So that's what happened to Spider-Mobile, presumably. However, Spider-Man has managed to escape, and even managed to stay hidden from Hobgoblin thanks to the black costume's camouflage abilities. Also, it helps that Doctor Strange was there in the alley as well, and also helped, did a few extra things with that. Because he still has a few tricks up his sleeve, but he could really use something to eat. And that's where the issue ends. Alrighty. Moving on to Spider-Man 2099, number 1. Well, the Spider-Man 2099 one-shot. Okay, so Spider-Man 2099. Miguel O'Hara was a scientist with Alchemax. His boss got him addicted to a drug, however, that Alchemax made to keep him from quitting. Well, to get so Miguel messed with his genetics to get cleaned up and gain superpowers out of it. Spider-ish superpowers. And so he became Spider-Man of 2099. And in fact, teamed up on multiple occasions with the Spider-Man of the present day. Anywho, we start off with looking at a deformed person. Usually says the word Ouroboros. Turns out it's a dream that Miguel's having. His assistant, his holographical assistant, Lila, was there asking if she should archive the dream and for analysis, and also that he's kind of been asleep for a while, and the diagnostics kind of point to him suffering from withdrawals. Goes through his messages, his work from his brother, from his girlfriend, and then there's Tyler Stone, the head of Alchemax. It turns out that the person we saw in Miguel's dream, is one of the mutated people from the Ravage, and everyone there who's there for long enough starts mutating. So, speaking of which, flashback to the Ravage a month ago. Miguel was trying to create innovations out of the various mutations. However, most of the mutations are useless. unstable, and fatal, and whatever changes in their coating is doomed to fail. However, there was one that was spider related that actually seemed to be useful. And it was that's what got Miguel sent back to Nueva York. However, things he did have his concerns, so he managed to get away from Alchemax. So he made his way to, but that also means he has to find himself another source of rapture, the drug he's been forced to become addicted to. We get an explanation of how economics work in Nueva York. There is no more money. Everything's tied to your social score, meaning only you can, use the money. There's a small device called Mystique. It's much like the little skull that Mystique wears on her forehead. It makes a perfect copy of you that can be overlaid onto someone else. That then gives them temporary access to whatever they can get their hands on. And basically, it's a cyclical thing. They get stuff that they can use to sell downtown, and then people come from uptown to get the stuff. People from uptown come downtown to get the stuff that was, yeah. But they decided they're going to keep him. He manages to. However, winged commandos show up called vultures. And Miguel's brother Gabe grabs him. Once again, Miguel has the same dream, only this time, instead of it being the human spider creature, it's Spidey 2099. Wakes up. Him and Gabe have a bit of an argument about their lives, but the choices they've made over the years, and Miguel leaves. However, Gabe notices the mystique that Miguel had on him when he was rescued. As Miguel's walking home, he discovers some graffiti saying Ouroboros, and perched on a wall by it is Spider-Man 2099. He has a brief flash of his life as Spidey, chalking up as being a hallucination. It's got it. But then he sees other things, such as the 2099 X-Men, Ravage, Doom. Something's going wrong, though, and then he's face-to-face with an old man who claims to be Miguel O'Hara. That's where the issue ends. We got one more. Okay. I don't feel so bad now about the X-Men being done dirty. So this is an alternate reality, alternate future type of thing. So yeah, okay. I retract the majority of my criticisms. All right, and moving on to the Doom 2099 one shot. So, Doom, the 2099 version of Doom. Okay, so I didn't read the full series, but it was largely what I did read. At the point that I stopped reading, everyone was still fairly certain that that 2099 Doom was, well, Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom himself. It coincided, and after a while, after the book had been out for a little while, there was actually a story arc in Fantastic Four wherein seemingly Doom and Reed Richards were killed. completely destroyed. With the theory being, oh, well, Doom probably time traveled to the future. And that ended up in the year 2099 in Latveria. Because there were some similarities to the point where Doom and Richards disappeared in the FF, and where Doom appears in 2099. So, yeah. Anyway, eventually Doom would take over the world and actually be a benevolent ruler. Well, a benevolent authoritarian ruler, but overall a benevolent ruler. Alright, so we begin some Thorites dragging a man through the Ravage. They plan to take him to their to the higher ups, who will probably just then kill him. Then when they stop to eat, they talk about things, and it's like, our race here doesn't reward us when we bring in people. He just passes on our heads and kills them. So to hell with it. I'm gonna do it. Well, this mysterious stranger manages to avoid getting killed, and one of the Thorites also does help him. So the two of them make their way further out of the Ravage, first coming upon, well, Tinkerer. And this mysterious stranger begins to start remembering things. He at least remembers that he's Doom. Victor Von Doom. So he makes himself an armor. We have a flashback to how he came to be the present. Latveria, Reed was there trying to talk sense into Doom. Apparently, the United Nations is in the process of declaring war on Latveria, and they're going to hit Latveria with everything they have. And so the two of them duke it out. Then we back to the present. An assassin named Kingpin has showed up to take on this so-called Doom. And so-called Doom uses the hammer that he brought with him from the Thorites to knock out Kingpin. When it comes to the fight between Reed and Doom, Reed tried to reprogram the time platform. And it turns out that also Doom has been hallucinating Reed quite a bit. So once the so-called Doom has defeated Kingpin, he armors up and then makes his way into the Ravage, arguing with the hallucination of Reed Richards along the way. Eventually, he discovers a floating city, and so he flies up to it with the armor. Enters, figuring, okay, so there's apparently another Doom. That's who sent Kingpin. So it's probably just a Doombot who, doing what it's supposed to do. And so, Doom says the code word that will stop a Doombot, Ouroboros. However, it doesn't work. Turns out the Ravage is in fact Latveria. And so the other Doom throws the newly arrived Doom out the window of his floating home. And we see Doom and Reed Richards disappear on the time platform. And the newcomer falls and thinks back to things, and turns out this newcomer is not Victor Von Doom at all, but rather Reed Richards. He just, however, thinks he's Doctor Doom. And that is where the issue ends. Alrighty, then next up we've got Annihilation Scourge, Beta Ray Bill. So, Beta Ray Bill is actually is rather well explained in this. So we begin at the edge of galactic space, the Sentry ripping a hole in space. Then we flash back to a week earlier on the planet Gyrax. And Beta Ray Bill is defending them from a space dragon with the help of Lockjaw. And they defeat the space dragon, save the planet, save the Gyraxians, who then celebrate Bill's deeds. They erect a statue to him in Lockjaw. However, after a week of celebrations, Bill's kind of just like, I'm kind of partied out. We need to... Something's coming. We need to... There are other fights. And just as they're about to leave, however, a portal whips open in space, with ships from the negative zone making their way through. So, Lockheed and Beta Ray Bill fly into action. But before they can, get ready to go and fly into action. However, before they can, the Cancerverse version of Doctor Strange appears and basically infects all of the Gyraxians with the Cancerverse. And so, and there's also a really neat nod to classic horror director Dario Argento, as I presume it's supposed to be that as such. Doctor Strange stands for the massive creature. By the power of the unclean spirit, I command the wrath of the vault of Argento. Lockjaw takes a hit from Strange. However, Beta Ray Bill manages to seemingly manages to stop him. He flies up further on and learns what's going on. Then ends up fighting. He sees the Sentry and figures, oh, it's the Cancerverse version of the Sentry. Sentry beats the holy shit out of Bill. And so Bill realizes he has really just one recourse. He twirls his hammer and throws it at the Sentry, knocking him back into the portal he came from, thus losing his power. However, as he's falling through space, Lockjaw arrives, teleports him back to Gyrax, and they then teleport into the negative zone. And that's where the issue ends. I really wasn't sure which of the two came first between the Beta Ray Bill and Silver Surfer one-shots, so... And I'm even having read them, I'm still not... I think it's one of those things where either one works just fine. The Beta Ray Bill one does not actually give a point in a post-incursion date, so there is that. Anyways, on to Annihilation Scourge, Silver Surfer. So, when we last left Silver Surfer, he had been reborn, though he was black from head to toe. So he's hanging out at the edge of galactic space, reflecting on what's happened to him of late. Ending up at the dawn of time, fighting Null, so on and so forth. When a reality puncture opens and warships burst through. However, Surfer is now intangible because of the changes that have happened to him. So he passes through the ships, seeing them. He finds a survivor on one and takes them doing, but he's able to get them to. He's able to get them back from being unconscious and operate their gravity rig. And she tells him some of what's happened. He surveys the wreckage of her ship as well as the other ships that have come through with it. So he flies through the rift into the negative zone. And we're on incursion day plus 15. And the negative zone is burning, devastated, ruined, conquered, brought to the brink of annihilation. And so Surfer flies through and he finds something he recognizes. The twisted, cancerous versions of Captain Marvel and Ronan the Accuser. So he fights into them. They've also got some Krees with them as well, who aren't important enough to be named. But Surfer manages to defeat them. However, he also runs into cancerous versions of his allies in the Defenders, in the forms of Hellcat, Hulk, Valkyrie, Namor, and Nighthawk. And he flies into an asteroid field. It feels there's something there. He's become convinced that his new darkness, with the coming darkness, and that he is part of that coming darkness with the change that has come to him. So he's trying to stay out of the way. But he comes upon Robert Reynolds, the Sentry's human identity. So Bob tells him what happened. Turns out that in the negative zone, he soaked up some negative cosmic rays and managed to get the void off of him. However, the void, when it left Bob, it took the Sentry powers too. So he was now just literally Bob Reynolds. So they argue. They have a little bit of a back and forth, and Surfer realizes there's only one thing they can do, and that's merge into one being. As Bob has the knowledge and insight to defeat the Void, while Surfer has the will and the power cosmic. Also, with Bob attached to the Surfer is, tangible. And as they fly off into space together as one, now becoming I'll just refer to it as the Silver Sentry. He remarks, "Together, Robert, together we might achieve what neither of us could do alone." And that is where the issue ends. Here's that shot of this, as I call it, the Silver Sentry. I was going to say, I want to hear a quick figure of that. Alright, that is it for this week. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.